Parents, I'm sure you'll agree, are very different to you. They sprout hair in ridiculous places. They shed hair in others. They have bizarre, flabby, bubbly bits that wobble about in slow motion when they run. They leave absolutely horrendous, unspeakable stinks in the bathroom that make you gag. Is that mummy or daddy? They cover the sink with bristles. Is that mummy or daddy? They smother their faces in gloopy cream that makes them think they look younger. But in fact, it makes them look exactly the same age, but just covered in gloopy cream. They definitely come from another planet, a pretty rancid one at that. They are also contrary creatures. Who knows what contrary means? No, it means they say one thing, they do another. They put you to bed early, but stay up late. They forbid you to eat sweets and then fill their fat, greasy faces with chocolate as soon as you're not looking. They order you not to swear, and then they curse at the TV when Simon Cowell comes in. They demand that you're careful with your pitiful amount of pocket money that they give you, and then pack the house with stupid electronic gadgets or handbags or shoes that cost disgusting amounts of money. In other words, a parent who actually follows their own advice is about as rare as a PE teacher who doesn't have a pot belly. There we go. Did you enjoy that? So let me ask you a question now. How many people here have got really rich parents? You've got really rich parents? No. Yeah, because this story is about a boy who inherits £1 million. Do you know what I mean by inherit? Yeah. That means when somebody... So I'm going to start off just to set the scene. Let me just do this and see if it works. Yes, that's better, isn't that? So that's the front cover of the book. Is he handsome?
No.
You don't think so? Is he ugly?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's a self-portrait. Okay. So this is the hero of the book. He's called Johnny Nothing because he's got nothing until one day he inherits £1 million when his rich uncle dies. Okay. Have you ever seen a dead body with all its insides scraped out and maybe sold to the local kebab shop? And then stuffed to the brim with £50 notes? Well, neither have I. But from the expression on the faces of most of the people staring at Uncle Marley, this was exactly what they were seeing. When they looked at Uncle Marley, they just saw money, rolls and rolls of banknotes, bundles and bundles of bunts, loads and loads of loot, dollops and dollops of dough, a stash of cash, a wagon load of wonga. Here we go again. Do you like her?
Yeah.
Do you? Yeah. Is she beautiful?
No.
So she is Johnny's mum. She's very horrible. She's very... I don't know if you can guess that. About time too. She speaks like that. It's not me. Said Mrs. Mackenzie, grumpily agreeing with me. This is pretty dull and I'm keen to get on with the action. Does anybody here have a mother who speaks like that? You do. You have everything, you do. Okay, back to Mr. Dark. Instead, he recorded a short video that outlines exactly what he intended to do with his vast fortune. There was a collective gasp of relief from the gathering, sort of, yes, the sort of noise that people make at football matches when the opposition have just missed a penalty. One or two people reluctantly apologised for swearing. However, before I can play the video to you, I have a minor request. Mr. Dark self-consciously shuffled the papers he was holding, like this, and cleared his throat, making a sort of noise that's almost impossible to describe in words, sort of... No, that wasn't it. Mr. Marley was always touched by how much affection you had for him, he intoned, and before he died, your love for him was an undoubted source of comfort. Some of the mourners raised their eyebrows, the rest simply lowered their eyeballs. Most people there hated Uncle Marley more than Brussels sprouts boiled in liquid horse manure served with rat's tails on toast, and knew that he hated them just as much. They were jealous of him, jealous of his wallet, jealous of his big house in the country, Jealous of his giant TVs, they hated him as much as Itchy hates Scratchy, as much as grown-ups hate traffic wardens, as much as you hate homework. Is that true? Yes. Although there's always one or two sneaks who pretend to like their homework. If your teacher is listening to this story right now, turn around and pull faces at the class sneaks to make them feel really uncomfortable. Don't do that. Don't do that. No. I'm sorry, but I really must insist. It specifically says here that there'll be no will unless everyone kisses Mr. Marley. Is that a nice thing to do you think? No. Are you sure? Anybody here ever done that? No. Me neither. Shall I carry on?
Yeah.
Why don't you kiss him then, demanded Mrs. Mackenzie. Once again, Mr. Dark looked at the piece of paper. It says here that I mustn't kiss Mr. Marley, which is a great pity, you know, because I was terribly fond of him. Give me that piece of paper, ordered Mrs. Mackenzie. Mr. Dark looked a little scared for a moment and hugged the paper to his chest, like that. Her husband. I'm terribly sorry, interrupted Mr. Dark, but it says here that the kiss must be for at least half a minute, or all of Mr. Marley's money will go to Battersea Dogs Home or somewhere else like that. Mrs. Mackenzie looked like she was going to explode. Her face turned bright crimson until it began to resemble one of those tomato-shaped ketchup dispensers full of vinegary red fluid that you get in poor people's cafes. She did a lot of cursing under her breath. Then she yelled, "I'm not doing that, you horrible little creep." "Very well," replied Mr. Dark, starting to put away his papers. Mrs. Mackenzie took a deep breath and swore again. "This is the last time," she scowled. Almost in slow motion, Mrs. Mackenzie moved her face closer to her dead brothers. She took a nose full of the horrible fetid smell that was pumping from the corpse and closed her eyes tightly. Then she pressed her mouth to Uncle Marley's cold blue lips and waited. Standing in front of the curtain, Mr. Dark looked at his watch and began to count. After only 10 seconds, Mrs. Mackenzie began to feel faint. She could feel her dead brother's whiskers tickling her chin, and she could taste his dead taste. Strangely enough, he tasted just like the school dinner that you're going to eat in a few minutes. After 20 seconds, her stomach was making strange gurgling noises like a dishwasher stuck in rinse mode. In her mouth, the taste of Uncle Marley flavour school dinner was replaced by sausage, bacon, egg and beans with brown sauce and egg yolk all mixed up in the beans. That's what she'd had for breakfast that morning. After 30 seconds, what remained of that breakfast was splashed all over her toes. In quite a nice pattern, as it happens. You could easily have framed it and hung it in the Tate Modern. And she emerged, breathless, white and gasping for air, from what had been the longest kiss of her life, and coincidentally, the longest kiss of Uncle Marley's death. "Will that do?" she garbled weakly, hardly able to speak as she moved away from the corpse on unsteady legs. "Yes, I believe so," said Mr. Dark, smiling politely. "Now your turn," she coughed, staring over at the horrified faces of the other two men. No need," said Mr. Dark jauntily, looking once again at the piece of paper. "It says here that if anyone here brings up their breakfast while kissing Mr. Marley, the others are excused from doing it. It's only fair and decent." And that's the end of that chapter. Did I horrify you there?
No.
No, not you. So, what? Yes.
Are we doing the next chapter?
Sammy.
No. Would you like to do the next chapter?
Yeah.
Well, we'll see how much time we've got, but I want you to help. Would you all help me if I ask you? She was constantly asking me for stories, and in the end, I got so fed up that what I used to do is I used to do really short stories. Shall I read you a couple? So here's one story I used to read to her, just to get her to go to bed. I'd say, "Once upon a time, there was a princess, and then a dragon jumped on her head, and she died. The end." Would you like to hear another one? Yeah. "Once upon a time, there was a handsome prince who was run over by a bus. The end."